Hello, welcome to my tutorial on making a rainbow flower of life polymer Murrini cane. We'll start off making the cane by making these 12 initial triangle components you see here. Those 12 components will then be rebundled to make these 4 canes. Those 4 canes will then be reused to make this larger cane, and then we'll finish out by making the border later. When making this cane, it's important to keep proportions the same. You want the petals and the white line around the petals to be the same. The colors are the petals, the white will be the lines, and the black will be the triangles in between each of the petals. To start with, I'm going to take each of the colors and turn them into a single round cylinder plug. I like to work in 2-inch segments, so my plugs are all going to be in 2-inch round cylinders. Here are all the colors, all assembled in the same size. Then I'm going to wrap them in white. First I wrap it in a 1 using my pasta machine, and then on a 3. Here it is, the red all wrapped up. Nice white border. This will be our first petal in red. Now proceed to do this with all the colors. Wrapped in a 1 and then in a 3. So now we'll have each segment about 2 inches long. I'm going to reduce it down to 8 inches. So I can have 4 segments at 2 inches apiece. It's still round, but now we need to make it into a petal shape. To make it into a petal shape, I just use my acrylic roller and try to turn my round cane into more of an oval cane. Flip it over, press it on the other side, look at it, kind of make sure it's nice and rounded on the edges. You don't want to lose the rounding on the edges too much. Here's my petal shape. It's more oval now. Cut it into 4 segments. I work in 2 inches, so here's my 4 2-inch segments. Next, do that with all the colors. So now you should have 4 segments of all the colors. Next, we're going to work on making the black triangles that go between the petals. Get you a nice hunk of black, turn it into a triangle. Nice equilateral triangle. Reduce it down, start to stretch it a little bit and get it smaller and smaller. You want the triangle sides to fill the top of the petal, but still leave the rounded edges of the petal hanging off. Once you've found the perfect size triangle, trim out 12 segments so you can make the 12 initial triangle canes. To start making the first initial triangle cane, get 2 red petals, and we're going to split them in half right down the middle like you see here, so you have a top and a bottom. 2 reds, 1 orange, split them in half like you see, and they're going to be rearranged onto a black triangle like so. 1 red on one side, the other red on the other, orange on the bottom. Here's a little video of how I try to put mine together. Now I trimmed 2 different red petals and put them on opposite sides rather than just trimming 1 red petal and putting it on the same triangle. Now when you trim the petals, they do get kind of squished a little bit, so you may have to pull them a little bit back out to stretch them so that they match up completely on their black triangle. Now when I'm putting them together, I let the rounded edges meet, but I don't completely put them together just yet. So red, red, and then orange on the bottom. And as you notice, when we're putting this first one together, there's still going to be gaps along the edges. We're just really seating the petals on the triangle first, and then we'll close off those edges now. Here I am closing off the edges. When you push them together, you try not to push one color into another. You want to really make sure that white line stays a nice straight white line down each edge of your triangle. And this will be number 1 of your 12 initial triangle component canes. Each one is going to be a different color combination. This is red, red, orange. I'm going to save you the time of having to watch me put together all 12 of them, and I'm just showing you how to put together number 1. It is red, red, orange. The other 11 are going to be different color combinations. And putting this together is going to be important to make sure the edges are sealed real well, and then push down the bulges in the middles and make sure it's a nice straight triangle at that point. Nice straight edges down each side. And now at this point, you're probably just going to want to pause the video here and put together all 12 of these initial triangle component canes. Once you have all 12 together, come back and unpause and we'll get started on the next step. Now we're going to take each of our initial 12 triangle canes and reduce them down to where we can take 3 segments out of each. I'll work in 2-inch segments. Here's one of the red, red, orange. We need 3 of each of them. So you can take all of your 12, reduce them down to 3, and cut them into 3-inch segments. So you should have 36 initial components now. Now we'll take these 36 triangles and make the 4 large main triangle components that make up the cane. I'll show you how to arrange each triangle first, and then we'll put them together. Let's start with triangle number 1. This will be main component triangle number 1. It's an upward facing triangle with 1 component at the top, then 3, and then 5. I would suggest pausing at this point and getting your components together in this fashion, and then unpausing when you're ready to proceed. Alright, now that we have our initial components arranged loosely, let's put them together. The white lines and the initial component pieces make this cane a breeze to put together. Just make sure all the little white dots match up on the faces of the cane, in the front and the back, and then I make sure the sides, the white lines match up all the way down and there's no color peeking out anywhere, pooching out or poking out. And what I like to do is I'll arrange, there I am showing, make sure that no colors are poking out. But I'll make the bottom level first, put my 5 components on the bottom together first, and then I'll make the mid level, and then I'll put all 3 levels together. So once again, just making sure all the little white lines match up. At this point it's just assemblage. And now that we've got the middle tier just about done, mush it down, make sure it all matches up nicely and all the lines are smooth and straight. I'll just put it together, make sure the little white dots match up on the front of the face, and then I'll flip it over and make sure they match up on the back, make sure all my white lines match up, no colors are poking out anywhere, white on white, mash that down a little bit, and then I'll just put my top component piece on, and that will be initial component piece number 1. Now, I only shot a video for number 1. I'll let y'all combine your own number 2, 3, and 4, and I won't torture you with having to watch me do it. But I will show you the layout for 2, 3, and 4. Now you'll notice here that all the petals are halves. So we're just making sure that all our halves are nice and straight. All the white lines are straight. I think a little piece of white got flecked out there and I accidentally pushed it into our cane, and that was the bane of my existence from here on out. And that is initial component cane number 1. We can go ahead and set that aside and let it start to rest overnight, and we'll get started on component cane number 2. And here's component cane number 2. You'll probably want to pause at this point so you can get the layout together and start putting them together. I oriented this cane in a downward facing fashion with 5 at the top, and then 3, and then 1. And then we'll set this one aside to rest overnight and get started on component cane number 3. And here's number 3. Once again, you'll probably want to pause before you proceed. Here it is reduced, and here we get started on number 4. And here is the layout for the 4th and final cane. You want to pause before you proceed once again. Now that we've finished making our 4 final main component canes, we're going to take each one and we're going to reduce them down to where we can have 2 segments of each cane. To make our final master cane, we'll only need 1 segment of number 1, 2 segments of number 2, 2 segments of number 3, and 1 segment of number 4. We're going to take those and we're going to arrange them as 1, 2, 3, and then 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3 will be the top half, and 2, 3, and 4 will be the bottom half. And I'll show you how to arrange those segments here in this video. Once again, the little white dots and lines make lining up everything very easy. So just line up the little dots on the edges of the triangles and the lines on the sides and the edges of 1 and 2, and then we're going to stick 3 right here on the end, and that's going to be the top half. I'll make the top half first and kind of seat everything together nicely. And then I'll do 2, 3, put them together. And finally I'll bring in piece number 4. So the bottom half is 2, 3, 4. And put them together and make sure everything's seated together nicely and nice and straight. And then I'll just put together the top and the bottom half. And this is going to be the core or the center. And if you notice, the edges still have half petals, so we need to work on making a bunch of half petals to close out the edges of this hexagonal cane now. And there's the core. Make sure all your lines are nice and straight, no waviness. Flower of life, but like I said before, the edges still need to be completed. To finish out the cane, we'll start with a large lump of black that will roll into a cylinder about the same size of the color wrapped in white when we reduced it down. Now that it's been reduced to a long cylinder the same size, we'll convert it to the petal shape using the acrylic rod the same way and trim it into segments. Those segments will then be trimmed into half like we did with the color. So we have half petals of black. Take your last segments of color, trim them into half so we have half petals of color and half petals of black. Next we'll need 7 triangles of black, the same size of the triangles you used as before. We'll need the color on the bottom and 2 half black on the sides. Squish them together and then you'll have 7 triangles like this. 2 should be red and then 1 of each of the other colors. Reduce those segments down so that you can take 2 of each. You should have 4 red and 2 of each of the other colors. Now we're going to make 3-tiered triangles similar to like we did making the main components. We're going to start with a red, orange, yellow triangles at the bottom. And then we're going to fill all the gaps with additional triangles. These triangles are going to be about the same size as the triangles that you have at the bottom. The top half will be filled with 4 triangles arranged in this fashion. They'll be made into a larger component like this, which you'll then reduce down. You'll pull this down to about the size that it fits to the side of the main component. You'll notice you have a lot of leftover component pieces. What I usually do is trim them down and then harvest all of the black out of them to use into my next components. The next one will be a blue, purple, red base. And you're going to fill it with black again. Now that you know about the size of the triangle you need, you know how far down you need to go. Trim that single segment out and put it on your main component. And now we'll need a purple, blue, green. Fill it with black and reduce it and attach it to your main component. Then it's going to be an orange, yellow, green. Reduce that and add that to the side of the main core. And now lastly, we're going to do the red, red, red. And this one, when you pull it down, make sure you save 2 segments because it's going to go on the 2 final pieces there, red, red, red. Now your final core is going to have all those spiky points sitting out that need to be filled. And we're going to fill them with black triangles once again. We need 12 more black triangles about the size of the components you've been trimming. And we're going to turn them into diamonds by putting the triangles back to back. And they're just going to fill the gaps. Once all the gaps are filled, I usually let it rest overnight before I reduce. Thanks for watching. I hope you have fun.